Welcome back to Wargamer Shut Up and Jam Gaiden. I'm Steve, the producer.
I'm Logan the Noob.
I'm Mike, and they call me the Memory.
That's cryptic.
Yes.
It's like a red pill, blue pill sort of
No,
style.
not quite. It's a little bit more direct.
I guess. They call me the Memory.
Alright, so
Anyway, and we're here to talk about the contents of the Skorne Army in a Box. Now, this is the first, I believe this is the first one that's coming out. It should be out, I think, on the 5th. I'm not sure where I saw that number, though. So, it may not be 100% correct, but it's something like that. Should MSRP for about $135 US, and hopefully similar in Canada. Hopefully. I believe it's about 75-80 pounds in the UK. And, yeah, let's get into it. So the first thing is obviously the Warlock.
Why don't we list the contents first, and then go over each individual?
That works as well. So we've got the Supreme Archdomina Makeda as the Warlock.
It is Epic Makeda, and in Epic Makeda's battle group, we have Moloch Karn, the character Cyclops Heavy, and a Titan Gladiator. She also has Aptimus Marketh attached.
Yep. It comes with a unit of Praetorian Swordsmen, a unit of Cataphract Incendiary.
It also comes with Pain Giver Beast Handlers and Praetor.
We already said it, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Supreme Archdomina Makeda, or E Makeda, as we'll probably call her.
E Makeda, not EE Makeda.
Not EE Makeda?
Yeah, it's not Makeda 3. I actually don't know what the term for the third is.
When there's a fourth Makeda, are we going to be like EEE Makeda?
I fucking hope not.
It's Makeda
Honestly,
4.
I believe that people were using I as the third, but I don't know that that's correct. I don't know if I'm right in remembering.
I'm not sure the terminology.
Correct us if we're wrong, this is Makeda 2.
Okay, Makeda 2.
Makeda 2 is you can't go wrong with it.
That's true. Okay, Makeda 2 is the Warlock, and I know very little about how this army works. I know that there is some pretty awesome synergy between Moloch Karn, the Gladiator, and I think Makeda does something with it, but being that Mike was the one who told me about this, he'd probably be better off explaining it.
So I think we're actually better off coming back to Makeda after we go through her beasts and some of the other models in the army. It's important to know that it is Epic Makeda, but in Hordes, a Warlock is made by their beasts almost more than their spell list.
That's true. Well, let's bring up Moloch Karn then, because he's... I've played against him a couple times, and he's a total badass. He's got... he just hits really hard, and he's really fast.
Yeah, Moloch Karn is a very useful piece, no matter what the situation. He's a speed 6 heavy, large base. He only costs 11 points, so he's not super cheap.
No.
His Fury is 4, but he gets an extra Fury as long as he's in Makeda's control area, because he's got affinity for her. He is hers.
So he can basically have up to 5 Fury?
Yeah, as long as he stays inside Makeda's control area.
Wow.
He's equipped with 2 Falchions, which are reach weapons with PS13 and Weapon Master.
Okay, so that's why he hits so damn hard. He gets an extra die.
It's a little rare to see Weapon Master on a Warjack or Warbeast at all, but especially with Moloch Karn, it's quite interesting. He's got 7 mat, so he's reasonably accurate. 13 defense, so he's kind of easy to hit. And 18 armor, so he's kind of tanky.
Pretty tanky.
He's tough, and he has quite a few boxes in each branch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna skip over any of the rules that he's got. 1 or 2 rules that don't matter for us because they don't matter for the contents of the box.
Okay.
His Animus, which Makeda can also cast because Warlocks are cool like that, is called Fate Walker. And it's basically like a super sprint. It can only be self-cast, so Moloch Karn has to cast it on himself, and Makeda can cast it on herself. And it lets you make a full advance with that model at the end of your turn when everything else is activated.
Okay.
When every model is activated. So you can put it on both of them, and they could both move. Doesn't really matter.
It's a bug-out move.
Not necessarily. You can go forward with it.
Okay.
Like Makeda could cast it on herself just so that she can cast some spells, and then later on move forward. Like
it also helps. I mean, if you were to cast that, if you wanted to use it aggressively, you could use it to get Moloch Karn in base with then any Warcaster.
That would be during at the end of your turn.
Yeah. But
yeah, I guess you could do that.
Like then the Warcaster decide, okay, do I want to step out and risk a free strike for POW 13 Weapon Master, or do I want to try and fight it? The options become pretty narrow. Depending on what you're fighting against.
Okay. Makes sense. So, because Moloch Karn is a smart little bastard, he's equipped with 2 weapons.
He's not little at all.
Well, that's true. He's actually big for a Cyclops. Most Cyclopses are.
Yeah,
medium.
they're like medium sized. Yeah.
He's pretty big. Anyway, he can make a combo strike. So rather than making his 2 initial attacks, he can make 1 attack that is at PS 18 base.
What, Master still?
With Weapon Master, yes. He just adds the power of the other one. This does forfeit his 2nd initial, so it's not always the right choice, but if you're looking to hit something really hard, then yeah, it's probably
well, POW 18 Weapon Master.
And you can make it as your charge attack, so you can get the boosted damage on that for free as well.
Okay, so you just send Karn in like into a jack, double hand, and then get like because most jacks are pretty heavy armor. And
Yeah, I mean, like you're still. I mean, okay.
And the other thing is with his mat, he's gonna hit any jack.
Let's hold off on like the combos and stuff for now
Right.
because it gets pretty deep. Skorne is a synergy faction. Mullet Karn has a few other like sort of passive rules. He has Future Sight and Intuition, which are sort of 2 sides of the same coin. Future Sight allows him to boost his attack and damage rolls after he's made them, rather than before. So you can miss with an attack, say, I should probably hit with that, and then roll an extra die. Obviously spending a Fury, forcing. Same for damage, same deal. So if you roll like boxcars and you want to just juice that damage up, you can throw in another die. Intuition is sort of the other, like it's the defensive version. If somebody hits you with an attack, it doesn't have to be melee, it can be any kind of attack. Magic, range, melee. You can immediately force him to cause the enemy to reroll their attack.
Oh, wow.
So, not always the most useful because he only has 13 defense. He's likely to be hit by a lot of...
Well, 13 for a heavy, 13 is pretty high. I mean, you play circles, so I mean, you get higher defense in general. But like from like most warjacks are 10 or 11. Most
right, but I'm just saying like you only need mat 6, which is not to hit on average.
Yeah.
You only need mat 6, which is not huge. I mean, like Kador's jacks all have mat 6, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
There are certainly models that don't. I mean, like there's less elite jacks and infantry that have 5. But you're typically like that's not gonna be super useful to you all the time, but it's interesting to note anyway. The other thing which allows Mullet Karn to be particularly scary is sidestep, which allows him to anytime he hits with an initial attack or a special attack that isn't a power attack. So basically, when he hits with either of his initials or his combo strike, he gets to advance 2 inches, up 2 inches, and he can't be targeted by 3 strikes.
Oh wow. Okay.
So if you make both of your initials, you can hit somebody, move 2 inches, hit somebody, move 2 inches again. It's an extra 4 inches of threat range, which can potentially be pretty devastating to an unprotected warcaster or warlock. Or even a protected one. You can charge a model, kill something, move forward, kill something again.
Yeah. So I mean, it makes your opponent really have to figure out where they're placing things, or without getting totally destroyed.
Yes, exactly.
But you're not going to be able to, I mean, you still have to be within Makeda's control area in order to force, right? So
yes.
That's the limiting factor, I think.
It is, for sure. Like, absolutely. The other war beast at all, I guess, I should say, in Makeda's battle group is the Titan Gladiator. Gladiator is kind of a mainstay. It's cheap at 8 points, for a heavy anyway. It is relatively strong in its attacks. It has 2 PS16 War Gauntlet Open Fists and a pair of PS15 Tusks, whose POW can be added to Headbutt and Slam power attack damage rolls. He's got Fury 4, which is fairly standard for Skorne Beasts, and he's Speed 4, so them elephants are slow.
Yeah.
These are the Kador jacks of this faction.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a very close match. It's almost the same as the Kador Jack stat line. It's missing a point of rat, which is irrelevant for this model, and a point of armor.
Okay.
And, I mean, the Fury 4 gives it more offensive capacity. The Gladiator has a few rules that basically just make him better at slamming.
Okay.
He's got Bullheaded, which means that if he frenzies, he slams instead of charging. And if he slams an enemy model, he can advance directly towards the slam model up to the distance the slam model was moved. This is follow-up.
Okay.
He also has Grand Slam, which is a rule that lets him make slam power attacks without spending focus or being forced in this case, and makes models move an additional 2 inches when slammed by the slam.
Oh wow. Okay.
So he's good at bumping stuff around and moving stuff.
I mean, he's fairly Fury efficient in that regard.
Right, and like he can slam a model at its the Tusk's damage roll. POW to the damage roll. So he's slamming at PS15 plus whatever buffs you have on him, and then That model takes extra damage if it runs into anything. He can follow up and then continue to wail on it by buying extra attacks. So he's got some pretty good offensive capacity, and he's also got a very important animus. He has the Rush Animus, which it's a 2-cost 6-range animus that gives target-friendly war beast +2 inches of movement and Pathfinder.
Okay.
Oh, so
For
it's,
one turn.
So it's like a single target balance charge.
Yeah, it's like Boundless Charge.
Okay.
Except it doesn't have to charge. Which
He just gets
It's sort of like it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting that you point that out because the Titan might be casting Rush, but often Makeda's going to be casting it, giving some extra mobility and whatnot. And like I said, he does have those 2 PS16 Open Fists and the PS15 Tusks.
Okay, so he's rock solid, but he's nothing to really go crazy over.
Those are pretty hard hitting attacks already.
Yeah.
And the next unit I want to go over is the Paingiver Beast Handlers.
Okay.
Because we just talked about the beasts. The beast handlers are a fairly important inclusion. The box comes with a full unit, which is 6 models for 3 points. That's already kind of okay. It's pretty good, really.
It's just like a speed bump there.
Yeah, I mean, if you needed to, but there's so much more than that, really. So they have PS8 reach weapons. It is actually relevant that they have reach. And they're map 5, so this is one of those things where that's actually not great at hitting defense 13. But lower defenses still hit just as easily. They have the anatomical precision rule, which means that whenever they fail to exceed the armor of a living model with the damage roll, the target takes a damage any 1 point of damage.
Okay.
Which means that these guys are almost as good as the Widowmakers I mean, granted they're shorter range, but they have the ability to dismantle single wound infantry quite easily.
Okay.
However, that's really not what you take them for.
Well, but it's still nice. I mean, for a unit that costs half a point a guy,
Right, exactly.
to be able to take out like high armor individual.
Yeah, like just take out
models.
some Iron Fang pikemen or some defensive line stuff or whatever. That's true. And they're speed 6, so they actually have reasonable threat range too. By themselves. We'll get to Makeda in a bit. But you mostly take them for their ability to manipulate beasts.
I see these guys in almost every list for Skorne I've played.
Yeah.
I imagine they're...
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a list without them.
Yeah, they're kind of like the equivalent of Menoth's Choir, in that they have 3 extremely, well, let's say definitely 1 super useful ability and then a couple of extra abilities that are nice variety. Yeah. The primary thing that they can do is Enrage. Now, it's important to note that every war beast can only be affected by 1 of these 3 actions a turn, regardless of the source. If you did take 2 units of these because you're dumb, then you would... Actually, there is some reason to take 2 units, but it would be 2 minimum units and just to spread out. Anyway, so Enrage is the primary reason you use these guys. It's a range 3 special action, targets friendly faction war beast. Assuming the war beast is in range and you didn't fuck up, the war beast gains +2 strength and must charge or make a slam or trample power attack without being forced during its activation. This is phenomenal. It makes your already strong beasts into stronger melee beasts, gives them a free fury essentially because you're charging without spending anything, and that +2 strength is a huge deal.
So I mean, you throw that on Moloch Karn, he ends up being POW 15.
Yeah, his PS15
Weapon
Master, and his combo strike is PS20.
I remember often targeting these guys with Widowmakers because I wanted them gone.
Absolutely. They're only defense 13, armor 11, so they're pretty easy to kill.
Yeah.
Their other 2 actions, their special actions rather, are both also range 3. One of them is called Condition, and you can place any number of Fury points or remove any number of Fury points from a beast. And the other one is Medicate, which causes the beast to heal D3 damage points.
Very useful as well.
Yeah. The thing with the Medicate is that you also you can't medicate the same beast more than once. So it's an additional restriction as to the beast manipulation rule in general.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of war beasts, at that point of the game, you probably only need to repair like maybe 1 or 2 branches.
Yeah, I mean, you only ever need to repair 2. If you have to repair 3, you're dead.
It's true. Yeah, so to get full functionality out of them. So, I mean, it is more restrictive in compared to other units that can heal things.
Right, and
but
ultimately, again, you're not taking them for medicating.
I noticed they also have the ability to take 1 point away or give one Give 1 point or take 1 point away of fury as well with their whip.
That's whenever they hit a war beast with the whip, and that's is true. This is any war beast, friendly or enemy. So you can mess up your opponent's fury calculation by either stealing fury from them when they're low on health and would otherwise be unable to leech from themselves.
Yeah.
Or you can overload them and hope for a frenzy. Again, that's going to be a very corner case use of these, because that means that they're in the thick of it, which means your beasts are probably dead and they're your last ditch. However, you can actually do this to your own beasts too if you need to manage your fury, because you can't use condition if you've used in range.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a really awkward sort of case. That would be sort of a case for having 2 units of these, but it's a very corner case. Not going to come up very often.
No, but if you had 2 units of them, you could still only affect 1 war beast with an ability.
Yes, like I said, the only reason to do that would be sort of to spread out your models. So like if you have 2 beasts flanking, or if you have 1 beast that goes in and you need to pull fury off of it after your other unit has gone in, you can charge that war beast.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And whip them.
Yeah, fair enough.
Whip it good.
So then we've got the Praetorian Swordsmen, which I think are kind of an odd addition to the box, considering like they don't have the UA; it's just the Swordsman unit.
That's fine.
So they've got some stuff going for them. They get multiple attacks, and they also have the anatomical precision thing.
They don't.
No, I think
No.
they. Oh,
The UA gives them something like that. It gives them penetrating strike, which lets you do that to like Warjacks and Warbeasts, and also has a mini feat that lets them cause 1 point of damage per game.
Don't they have some kind of synergy with the current Warcaster?
Yeah,
actually?
Makeda gives them vengeance.
oh, okay. I thought they had a thing where they could just do 1 point of damage.
No, that's the.
On the swordsman?
No, you're right.
Yeah,
What
they
the hell?
have penetrating
Sorry,
strike.
I'm reading off of the Warmo on the tablet. This didn't actually load.
Oh, I see.
However, it is only to Warjacks and Warbeasts.
Okay, so it's not against infantry.
Correct.
That's interesting.
However, I mean, the fact is you have 10 models. They each have 2 attacks.
That's still, potentially 20 damage.
You're never going to get 20 of them in on the same
No,
target.
fair
Unless you might get some of the, like, you might get 8, 9 on a Colossal. And taking 16 points off a Colossal with your 6-point unit is pretty good.
Yeah, that's true.
But on average, I mean, like, the thing is, they're 6 points for 10 guys. They're mat 6, so they're pretty good at hitting things. That's a really stupid generalist statement to make. They're pretty good at hitting things. Their defense 13, armor 14, so they're going to die, but that's okay.
They've always been described to me as just a simple tar pit unit.
They basically are. They're a tar pit that has some awkward synergy when it comes to, not so much synergy, well, there's a little bit of synergy with Makeda, but they're a tar pit unit that has some weird offensive ability against Warjacks and Warbeasts specifically.
Now, how can Makeda make them better?
Well, primarily she just gives them vengeance for being
Okay.
in her army.
Yeah.
She also has
Inspiration.
which means that they're essentially fearless, well, as long as they're in her command range. And she has a third rule that is somewhat useful for Praetorian Swordsmen, but more likely useful for the Incendiary,
Okay.
which is Stay Death. Essentially, she can spend 1 Fury point once a turn when a friendly trooper model is destroyed to heal it for 1 point.
Okay.
So
So you kind of want to use that on something that's worth more than a single.
Essentially,
swordsman
yeah.
Most of the time.
yeah, I mean, it's obviously that's very situational. That ability is mostly going to be used in situations where you need a model to stay where it is, to like block a charge lane or something like that.
Okay. So so what about the Incendiary? Now, from what I understand, you get a unit of 6, which is kind of an odd number
For large based infantry, yeah, that's kind of weird. But for Skorne, it's par for the course.
And they're primarily a ranged unit, no?
Yes, they're speed 5. They have rat 6 and mat 7. So they're actually still more accurate in melee than they are at range. But that's okay because they have AOE's.
Okay.
They're basically just a unit of guys in heavy armor with rocket launchers.
That's fair. I mean, that definitely takes care of things that like the Winter Guard.
Mm-hmm. They've got 12 defense, armor 15, so they're not super hard to kill. But with 8 boxes apiece, armor 15 is gonna do them fairly well.
Okay.
And like I said, with Makeda, you can stop one from dying.
Yeah.
Once a turn. And their primary weapon, the Incendus rocket launcher.
That sounds like it's hard to say. I'm not going to bother.
Incendus?
It
Incendus?
seems a little awkward.
It's not super hard.
It's a little
Anyway, it's a range 10 gun, rate of fire 1, fires a 3-inch AoE,
Okay.
and it's power 12.
Okay.
It causes fire damage and causes continuous fire.
Now, is that crit, or is it just do it?
Just does it.
Oh, that's pretty awesome then.
Yeah.
That's really, really fantastic.
Yeah. They also have combined range attack. So if you, for whatever reason, need to hit something harder, you could, for example, pump 3 POW 14 shots into something, which would be fired at Rat 8.
That's pretty great.
Yeah. That's fairly solid. Obviously, it's more flexible than that, too. You can do different sizes if you really need. If you really needed 1 POW 18 at Rat Ridiculous,
you could do it.
You could do that.
Now, they're relatively expensive, though, aren't they?
Yeah, they're 9 points for the full unit.
That's actually not too bad. Compared to like a lot of other heavy infantry that are like 8 to 10 points for 5 guys.
Yeah, it's
9 points for 6 is not bad.
It's a point and a half per dude. They are fearless, so that you don't have to worry about them fleeing ever. And their melee weapon is PS 11. So they're not actually that bad if they have to charge something or if they have to fight something back. They don't have reach.
Really what's the range on them? 10?
10.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're really better off keeping them at range.
Clearly, that's their intended purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying that they're not helpless in melee.
Okay, so I mean, so far what we see here is we've got a couple of beasts with some pretty awesome synergy between the two of them. Like the gladiator can give Karn the speed boost
And himself.
And yeah, exactly. So he gets speed ridiculous.
We'll get to that. We'll get in more detail when we talk about Makeda. I want to get over Marketh before we get back to Makeda.
So what is Marketh?
He's a character solo. He's very interesting because he's attached to the Warlock. He's a 3-point dude. Has a reach weapon. Doesn't really matter.
Magic weapon.
Yeah,
it's useful.
Still doesn't really matter. You don't want to have this guy anywhere near your opponent. He takes souls. Whenever your models, your friendly living faction warrior models, are destroyed by basically anything that continuous affect enemy attack, collateral damage of an enemy attack, he collects a soul. He can have up to 5 souls at once. He can spend soul tokens to buy attacks, boost attacks, and damage rolls. Not really what you want. I mean, like, he can do that for sure. Mm-hmm. And I'll get to some uses of that in a little bit, but not the greatest. He does get +1 armor for each soul that he has.
Okay.
Which can bring him up to armor 17 if he maxes out on souls, which is still pretty squishy, considering he only has 5 boxes and defense 13. He is fearless because reasons. Why not? And he has Soul Tap, which allows your Warlock to upkeep to spend soul tokens to upkeep spells instead of their Fury.
Okay.
Makeda has 1 upkeep spell, so this is marginally useful for her.
Still put more Fury efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, it's not useless. His other ability, this is a special action that he can take. It's Spell Slave. Other factions have access to this as well. It's you cast a spell that costs 3 or less from your Warlock spell list.
Okay.
You can't cast something that has a range of self or control, and you use your Warlock's Fury as the attack stat if you need to make an attack. So it would be Fury 6. Makeda has 1 offensive spell, and this would be the primary use of your soul tokens to boost attack and damage rolls.
Okay.
Would be to hit and damage with the spell. Otherwise, I mean, like, you can spell slave one thing early in the game and it's useful, and you can save 1 fury from your upkeep spell. It's okay. The thing about Marketh, though, is that he's very good with a lot of other Skorne casters. Okay,
so in general, like, getting him in this box is pretty awesome.
It's useful. I mean, I don't know if you could really make a better case for some other 3-point model. You might be able to, but you might not. I'm not familiar with Skorne to know that for sure.
So he sounds like he performs a similar, if not the same role as like a Scarlet Thrall.
Very similar.
He seems a little awkward in this list, though.
Well, I don't know about that. Like, the thing is, like, making her a little bit more fury efficient seems pretty good, especially because you want to kind of hold back a fury for her pawn thing, where she can save a pawn.
Sure.
I mean, she seems like a warlock that kind of wants to hang on to some of her focus, or
of course,
some of her fury, I should say.
You always want to.
Well, not always, because the thing is, if you have to re-fury for your beasts, you don't always want to.
You don't have to re-fury.
No, okay, but then they might go insane and trample your own guys to death.
You just gotta do it properly.
Okay.
Steve, you gotta play smart.
No, fair enough. And I'm a big fan of hordes in general because they give you the opportunity to like go balls to the wall, and then maybe we pay for it later, maybe not. They're a lot more risk versus reward. strategy versus like resource management.
Certainly. It's still resource management. You can just sort of throw it out the window if you feel like.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's just on that one turn where you really want to get as much
that's not risking at that point. That's just you win the game because you go all out.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's Street Fighter 4 versus Street Fighter Third Strike, basically.
Oh my god.
I don't know.
But in either case, like, I mean, so as far as the Skorne box goes, the individual things, aside from maybe Mullet Karn, I mean, beast handlers are kind of a staple. It doesn't scream like super powered, comparatively speaking, to like the K-Bar one. So what makes this box competitive?
Well, it's a synergy faction. Skorne is a synergy faction, probably only second to Menoth, and maybe not even second to Menoth anymore. Everything in the box is useful. The Incendiary are probably the most corner case unit. I haven't played enough Skorne. I haven't played any Skorne myself. Well, actually, I played one game.
Oh yeah?
But I haven't played enough with enough Skorne players recently to know how big of an effect they've been having. But certainly, the beast handlers are unquestionably useful.
Mm-hmm.
The Praetorian swordsmen are very useful. They're a little bit weird in this list, but not like ridiculously so.
Okay.
And like I said, Aptimus Marketh is good. The Titan Gladiator is fantastic. Mullet Karn is good. The only downside with the Gladiators, he also comes in the Battle Group starter box.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of a weird decision with this box because in the other boxes, at least that we've seen so far. Yeah.
However,
there's a reasonable.
The Gladiator is an important enough piece of an army that it's kind of worth the risk.
No, fair enough.
In addition, if you go down that route and you happen to buy both of these boxes, if you then also buy a Titan box, you can make, rather than the Gladiator in the battle group, you can make a Sentry and a Cannoneer.
That's true.
So there is some versatility there.
Now, when we first started talking about the Skorne box, you mentioned the Mullet Karn cannon. What is
Missile,
that?
but yeah. So now we'll go to Makeda because she sort of ties everything together. We've talked about her passives. She's a Speed 6, Fury 6 Warlock. She's actually surprisingly tanky at Defense 15, Armor 17.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect
respectable
that.
for that.
She has Mat 7, so she's fairly good in melee too. Her command is 10, which is usually irrelevant for Warlocks, but in this case she has Inspiration, which gives her Praetorian Swordsman the ability to never rally and always never flee, immediately rally within 10 inches.
Never rally, always flee.
Yeah, that's a great rule.
Always.
Good rule.
We are the
Good
biggest
idea.
cowards in the game.
Run the fuck away.
Well, I mean, okay, to be fair, you go against a Carnithian, I don't want to be there.
True.
They're big and scary, and
Yeah, but she's like, I'm gonna kill you if you don't go in.
that's
Just
a
go in.
good argument.
You might as well go in. So she has one spell which I'm going to call sort of a last resort. It's not really a last resort, but it is a spell that you only cast in certain situations. It's Engine of Destruction. Other casters have this spell as well. It's a 2-cost self-cast spell. Doesn't upkeep and only lasts for 1 turn. It gives her, Makeda, 2 speed, 4 strength, and 4 mana for the activation.
Wow.
Which makes her speed 8. It makes her melee weapons PS 16, a pair of them. And she gets to Mat 11.
Does she have a Weapon Master on her swords? No.
They're magical weapons.
No, if you're POW 16 with Weapon Master, you don't need the rest of your army. Like,
No, I mean, that's not entirely
I
true.
brought some friends, but we just left them back there. I'll do that. I
Anyway,
got this.
so, I mean, Engine of Destruction makes, drains 2 of her Fury.
Mm-hmm.
So at most, she'll have 4 Fury to work with. She can still kill stuff with that. If need be, if presented the opportunity and no better piece to do it, she can make an assassination herself. She could probably finish off a Warjack or a Warbeast.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a little bit difficult. You'd probably be boosting every damage roll.
Okay, fair.
But the +2 speed isn't bad either. Like you can't cast this and run because you can't cast anything and run.
But you can cast it in charge.
You could. Engine of Destruction is probably the least or the second least useful of her spells. So I'm going to go from sort of least important to most important.
Okay.
The next spell that she has, which is sort of the least important beyond that, is Stranglehold, which is a 2-cost, range 10 offensive spell. It's a POW 11 hit, single target, and if a model is damaged by Stranglehold, it forfeits either its movement or its action during its next activation. Its controller chooses. The benefit of casting this as herself is limited. because she's going to want to be closer than she should be and boost either the attack or the damage, which leaves her with only 3 Fury to do other stuff.
But if Marquette can cast it on like a heavy...
Marketh can in fact cast this, and it's it's good that he can. It's a good use of his souls if he has more than he needs to stay alive and to allow Makeda to upkeep her 1 spell for free. Because, I mean, if you can get a boosted Stranglehold off, you usually only have to boost either the attack or the damage roll. And dealing even 1 point of damage is enough to either to make something stop in its tracks or be unable to attack after moving.
That's huge.
Also, because you denies running. You have to have both of your movement and your action to be able to run.
Okay.
So even if all your opponents wanted to do with that piece was move it, they can't move it as far as they want to.
Wow.
So Stranglehold's okay. It's a 2-cost spell, like I said, 10-inch range. So it's not going to get used all the time, but it's an interesting option. The next option, next spell, sorry, and this one is very important, but I would say it's probably her second most important spell, is Leash.
Okay.
It's a 2-cost, 6-range upkeep spell that targets a war beast in this model's battle group. Marketh can cast this, and he will allow you to upkeep it for free, provided he still has souls. Immediately after this model, Makeda ends its normal movement. Target war beast in this model's battle group, which is the spell you've cast it on, or the target you've cast it on, can immediately advance up to 3 inches towards Makeda. Not directly towards, mind you, just towards.
So you just have to end up closer to her
Yes.
than you started it.
Yes. So this is part of the Mullet Karn missile, and I'll explain the whole combination once I've done everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Her last spell on her card is Road to War. This is a 3-cost, self-range and control AoE, which means Marketh cannot cast it. Does not upkeep, so you have to cast it every round you want to use it, and that will probably be every round.
Okay.
It reads, friendly faction non-warlock models activating in this model's control area gain plus 2 inches of movement this turn.
Oh wow. Okay.
This makes your entire army move 2 inches faster, provided you're within 12 inches of Makeda.
That's huge.
It's pretty ridiculous. This is another component to the Mullet Karn missile, but also just makes all of your stuff good.
Yeah.
Mo beta. It makes it quite good.
Speed kills?
Absolutely. So this is actually Makeda's 3rd movement speed tool. And I'll go over her feat just because we're here. And then I'll finally explain this Mullet Karn missile that I've been teasing you with, but everyone else already knows, so I'm sorry. Her feat is called Instruments of War. It's quite a simple feat. Buffs everything in your control area. While in your Makeda's control area, friendly faction models gain boosted melee attack rolls, so they hit easier, and cannot be knocked down or targeted by free strikes, which means you can just weave your way through the enemy and just kill anything you want.
That's pretty great.
The immunity to knockdown is also good in specific situations. But anyway, that's accuracy for you. It's a pretty good feat. It's just a generally useful thing. The really threatening thing in terms of assassination with Mullet Karn, the Mullet Karn missile, which is kind of more of a slingshot. At the start of your turn, well, actually, I guess I should just say you activate Makeda before Mullet Karn, having Leash upkept on Mullet Karn.
Okay.
Or you could actually cast it too, but it doesn't really matter. You cast Road to War on your turn. So Mullet Karn will get plus 2 inches of movement.
Okay.
You cast Rush, the Gladiator's Animus, on Mullet Karn. So he gets plus 2 inches of movement.
So he's
as a
up
Pathfinder.
He's up by 4 and he's got Pathfinder?
Correct. You move forward, being at least parallel with Mullet Karn to begin with. Mullet Karn moves 3 inches forward because of Leash at the end of your activation. So Mullet Karn has moved 3 inches already. Is speed 6.
With plus 2 movement.
With plus 4 movement.
All right. Okay.
Now, you don't charge with Mullet Karn yet. No, that's a waste. Now, you use your Beast Handlers and you whip Mullet Karn because he likes the pain. You enrage him. You piss that motherfucker right the hell off.
You whip him. You whip him good.
You whip him right in his butthole.
You whip him real
You
good.
stick your thumb in the butthole. Piss him right off.
But hold on. Now either pisses him off or he likes it. Now you've confused me.
Both. It can be both.
Okay.
So Mullet Karn now decides to go eat
Skorne are a
something.
strange race.
He decides to go eat something. He charges 13 inches.
Okay.
So he can actually charge right out of Makeda's control area, provided that she doesn't get ahead of him which she does. So Makeda will move 6 inches forward at least. You can charge an enemy model further in the distance to gain an extra 3 inches with Makeda as well. Just to extend the range of her influence, her control area. And you feat in case you need to, because funny.
Well, I mean, if you're going like all in with Mullet Karn and you're getting the extra +2 attack.
So you can either feat and go all in, or you can just have Mullet Karn pop his own animus so that he can walk away after his turn.
But I feel like if you're going to go in with him, in certain circumstances, you probably want that 2 Fury to just brain something.
Well, if you're, this is really just going all in versus like an attrition. Like if you think you can end the game, yeah, sure, why not? You can actually also cast the animus like after your first few attacks.
Okay.
So like if you've killed everything in range and you've done what you want to do and you still have 2 Fury available, pop your animus.
And then come back.
Then you walk away. If not, then you just buy more attacks. But Mullet Karn is now charging 13 inches at the enemy with 2 inches of reach. So he has a 15-inch threat range in addition to the 3 inches he's already moved.
So that brings him to effectively 18 inches.
Yes. Granted, again, to force him after the fact, you'll need to still be in Makeda's control area. Okay. Which is 12 inches in front of Makeda, who is presumably...
But if she's moved up 6 and you started parallel...
Yeah, I mean, yes, you should still be, but it just puts an upper limit on the distance that you can actually go.
Okay, so you're like, maybe keep it safe and go 17 and a half?
We'll just keep the numbers just because it's funny.
Okay.
So Mullet Karn has now traveled 18 inches. He's traveled 16 inches and threatened 2 extra. He can now make his initial attacks, or combo strike. Combo strike will be PS 20. Initials will be PS 15. Both weapon masters.
And if he combo strikes, he charged as well, so it's PS 20.
Well, he charged regardless. So his first attack's damage roll is boosted.
And he has weapon master.
Yes. So you're rolling 4 dice.
20. So POW 20 with 4 dice.
Yes. If after your attack hits, assuming it does hit, because Matt 7 and he's cool. This cool guy doesn't afraid of anything.
With potentially boosted.
With potentially, yeah. Also, if you miss, you can just use his future sight and boost it after the fact.
That's true. So, but with if you feated or use the feat, then you'd be at Mat 9.
No, the feat doesn't do anything to your Mat because he boosted melee attack rolls.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay,
yeah.
So you're boosted.
So anyway, but yeah, so now he can crack somebody upside the head, and then he moves 2 inches if he feels like it.
And can do it again.
Well, he can make a second initial if he didn't make a combo strike.
Okay.
And then move another 2 inches if he feels like it.
Otherwise, you're buying more attacks. But
yeah, well, you can't move 2 inches on the attacks that you buy.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, it's only initial attacks. So in theory, if you could get Makeda to a position where it works, what did we say, 18 inches? Yeah, you can have Mullet Karn has a 22-inch threat range.
Okay, so he can move up and then move up again.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you can keep Makeda, him in Makeda's control area for that last bit, because at that point he has to buy attacks. Because he used both of them.
And then you have to force him.
Yeah, so you have to be within Makeda's control area or have some other way of extending it, which I'm not sure Skorne has. They might.
So it's kind of like out of nowhere, like this crazy blitz run.
A little bit, yeah.
I don't even know how you protect against that, especially with the feat turn where you don't get free strikes. You can, if there's room for him to move in there, he can get there.
Well, I mean, really, you just don't give him room to move. Like
you have to just like brick him in front.
Yes, which is why the Incendiari are good.
Yeah, I guess they clear the way.
See, in this case, whether Mullet Karn actually executes this ridiculous assassination or not, the threat of him being able to do it incentivizes your opponents to walk into fireballs, essentially.
That's true.
To hug into fireballs.
Well, it's warm.
You know.
That's fantastic. That'd be fun.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, and that makes a good case for the Incendiary.
And we can't ignore that the Gladiator hits like a truck, too.
That's true.
So, you have, with this list, you have 2 heavies that are both very capable of assassinating or wrecking enemy warjacks, what have you. They also both have a number of initial attacks. The Gladiator is not so good at hitting like infantry, although he can slam as a
free action.
Well, yeah, he can slam for free. You can charge for free with the whip anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But he can slam as an alternative option if he's not really in position to charge something. And, you know, he could slam a heavy through a bunch of infantry and then follow up and wail on the heavy while it's on the ground.
That would be a good idea.
Just beat on it because it's fun.
Yeah, because if you slam something, you get knocked down, right?
Yes. Unless Makeda feats, then she can't get knocked down or her models.
There we go. So, okay, so I mean, that makes a lot more sense in terms of what this force is capable of. Because, I mean, if you just isolate everything, you're like, well, it seems a little kind of patchwork, but then when you look at the synergy between them, you're like, oh, okay, holy crap, 18-inch Destructo
Skorne
cannon.
is absolutely a synergy faction.
Well, I remember back when we were playing, this would have been about a year and a half, 2 years ago, actually. At the time, we played in a meta where Crix was just unanimously feared. Mostly to do with the particular players playing Crix.
Yeah.
But they were kind of, like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, Crix is OP, Crix is OP. And
wasn't like Pete and Negro just like a free game basically? You just kind of laughed at whoever you're playing.
No, P-Demi is not an automatic win.
No.
She's just really not fun to fight.
Yeah. And then somebody started playing Skorne, like, a lot. And it looked, nobody knew how to beat it. It was just, like, crazy powerful. So I think this is a big part of the reason why. Is like, once you figure out what that combination of models
Absolutely.
that you want to run are, you just go bananas and blow everything up.
Absolutely.
I would say taking apart a Skorne army is I mean since they are a synergy army, it's much like taking down Menoth in that you're basically peeling an onion. You need to figure out which peels you need to take off first.
Yeah,
I would say in this army, like you really want to pick off the buffers first. You want to take out the whippers. You want to take out.
I don't know about that, because the thing is, like, Karn is so strong by himself. Like, he doesn't need all of that extra stuff to be scary as hell.
I definitely see where you're coming from, and I think the Menoth comparison is quite apt, because in Menoth you have at least in some Menoth lists, you have a variety of defensive layers, and in that case you do have to peel back the layers one by one, in a way that the Menoth player chooses because they get to choose, because they're bastards.
Yeah, that's true.
In this list, you kind of just have a bunch of contributing factors. There's no real. I would say that you're probably right in that the beast handlers are something of a linchpin, but I would say that you would be more correct in saying that Moloch Karn himself is the linchpin of this list. Which isn't to say that the list can't function without him, because like I said,
but if you kill him, he's...
Yeah, if you kill him, a significant portion of the Makeda player's options are limited.
I think the only problem is, like, if he's got up to 22, potentially 22-inch threat range, how do you get to him? How do you kill him?
That's a very good question.
You can't, I mean, and plus he's a heavy, so killing him at range is a pretty poor prospect.
Quite difficult. There are certain options that limit his effectiveness, like pistol wraiths or enemy stranglehold, to stop him from moving and acting.
Okay.
You can make it harder for Makeda to cast her spells. Like if you have a Wold Weird or a Krios' Lamentation or something like that. If you make it harder for her to cast her spells, she's not going to be able to keep buffing them.
That's true. She doesn't have unlimited fury. She's
Fury 6. She actually has to spend 3 fury for that Road to War.
Okay.
Every turn that she casts it. There's no upkeep. Marketh can't help. I would assume that on turn 1 Marketh casts Leash.
Okay.
On Moloch Karn.
Can Moloch Karn be affected by Leash twice?
No, because it only affects. First of all, you can't have Leash out in 2 places at once because it's not an upkeep spell. Regardless of whether Marketh casts it or Makeda casts it, it is still Makeda's upkeep spell. Second, you can't like put Fate Walker on a beast, then do something with Makeda, then put Fate Walker on another beast, and have them both move. Because sorry, not Fate Walker, Leash. I was looking at Moloch Karn. Because Leash triggers at the end of your activation. So if you have Leash and you start, like if you have Leash on your Gladiator, for example, and you start your activation, if Leash isn't on your Gladiator by the end of your activation, it doesn't do anything for the Gladiator.
Okay. I'm actually pretty interested in playing the Skorne side. Mostly because I don't know, like I've had no experience with Skorne, and I like that idea. I like the idea that you can just take this big giant heavy guy and like fire him up the board, and hopefully that's not a terrible plan. Like hopefully
it's a terrible plan if you do it wrong.
Yeah.
But
Or
again,
if your dice rolls fall apart, then it's like, well, that was for nothing.
it's not as easy for Moloch Karn's dice rolls to fall apart though.
because he has 4 die.
Yeah,
and
well,
he's-
no, he has future sight. He's like, I can see the future.
Yep.
Whenever you miss, sure, whatever. You got 5 fury as long as he stays in Makeda's control area.
That's true.
We should probably just for a second. He can attack 7 times at PS 15 Weapon Master.
That's crazy.
So just throwing that out there, like regardless of his threat range, I mean that's really cool. If he uses his first 2 attacks to get further, then he can still attack 5 times. But if he just gets to charge something and doesn't have to use those 2 side steps to get to it, 7 times PS20, PS15 Weapon Master.
Yeah, I mean you're rolling 3 dice plus potentially another one if you want.
Can you only combo strike on the initial attack?
Yeah, you can only make 1 combo strike. So I mean and he's map 7, and on your feet turn he's got boosted attack rolls. So on your feet turn he hits defense 17 on average with his attacks, which almost nothing has. Except Sorsha with the guard dog. That's 18. Anyway,
but he could just run up and kill the dog and then sidestep and kill Sorsha.
Also true. Or he can just see the future, and if he happens to not roll a 10, or sorry, not roll an 11, which is not impossible on 3 dice. Then he just gets to roll an extra die, and then cut her in half with 1 attack, because reasons.
Well, that's true. I mean, because she's only got how many boxes?
She's armor like 15. She's armor like 15 or 16, and she has 15 or 16 boxes.
Yeah. So I mean, if
She's
he's doing dice
sturdy.
dice damage on 4 dice, you're average 14?
That's on the chart.
She's sturdy, but sturdy doesn't do good enough against Karn. Like
he could reasonably cut her, like just kill her.
I think Karn could realistically kill any caster in this game if he got every attack on them.
Oh yeah.
There's not even Terminus.
Terminus camping focus maybe.
If Terminus on feet turn can have like 35 armor.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, there's that.
You're not killing Terminus on feet turn unless you can get the soul off of him somehow. However, Marketh takes souls, so it's harder for Terminus to gather them. If Marketh is closer than Terminus, when one of your models dies, then you get the soul instead of him.
Okay.
Well, although I mean, if Terminus is the one who's killing things, then it's probably but still.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at first I wasn't all that excited about the Skorne side, but now I kind of want to throw some.
I feel like the Khador list is gonna have a difficult time dealing. Like they just compare the 2 boxes to face each other since they are the first 2 to come out. The Khador list is gonna probably have a hard time dealing with Moloch Karn because all those options you gave for trying to weaken Karn or Makeda, they don't have them.
Well, the thing is, the Khador list can at least
slow them down.
You can speed bump, you can brick them a little bit, right?
Absolutely.
I guess you could deal with the cataphracts with the rockets maybe, or with
No, you don't have to though. You just keep like a big mass of stuff in front, and hopefully they don't get all blown up by the incendiary. And in fact, what I would probably do is I'd probably focus on killing the incendiary, so that you can continue to like hold back.
Yeah, I mean potentially. The thing is that they're armor 15. They're armor 15 with 8 boxes. You can throw some rockets at them. Those are POW 14s.
Yeah.
You won't kill. Well, you might kill 1 or 2 a turn.
On a heavy roll, yeah.
If you're lucky. Well, no, 2 of them should kill an incendiary. Except Makeda can just spend a fury to bring it back, like to keep it alive.
Yeah.
However, you have Widowmakers to finish it off, so that's okay. The Widowmakers actually kind of invalidate that rule almost completely.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're left with 1 up.
Dead. Yeah. Fair.
So you have options. I mean, like I don't think it's really uphill either way. It's definitely.
I think it'd be a good match in either case. Like I think that maybe the Skorne side might be a little bit harder to play.
No, not at all. No, I disagree completely.
See, the thing is, I mean, because you have to rely on that synergy, and I think that a lot of Khador stuff is just strong by itself.
In this case, I disagree, and I believe that the Khador tends towards circleness, where mistakes are less forgiving. Because Moloch Karn is an asshole, and he can snake his way through a bunch of dudes if you don't have your Winter Guard arranged properly to block.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, if your Winter Guard aren't arranged properly to block Moloch Karn after taking missiles, then he just walks through.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Sorsha will have to be pretty far in the back. Now, the advantage of Focus over Fury is when Sorsha decides that she wants to send a Jack in, she doesn't have to be within 12 inches of it when it gets to its
load
destination.
him up and send
Which is really good. That's really good because she can camp way the fuck in the back, just inside the kill box, and buff things so she doesn't die to Moloch Karn being cut in half by Moloch Karn. However, for her feet turn, she does need to be within 12 inches of the targets she wants to hit.
So I mean that really makes you be very careful about.
It's a do or die feat.
It follows. I mean, it follows with Sorcerer's theme. I mean, even her feat in as P Sorcerer was also a like last turn assassination feat.
I disagree a little bit. Like I see where you're coming from in that you want to end the game on the turn that you pop Peace Orch's Feet.
Yeah.
We're on a tangent, but that's okay.
Yeah.
However, Peace Orch's Feet rendering everyone on the enemy team, on the enemy army, stationary, means that the warlock, the war noun, and their war beasts or war jacks will be focus deprived. They'll have to spend at least one focus to shake stationary each, and infantry will be completely disabled.
Yeah.
So if you were able to kill somebody's warjack and not leave yourself open to caster assassination, you can easily just kill them on attrition.
Okay.
And you can actually, like, there's a certain degree of doing that in this list, but you absolutely have to make sure that either you kill Karn or you properly block him from killing you.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose hypothetically speaking, you could just use both of your jacks to screen you, but that seems like a waste.
So of these two, I just kind of want to do like a small little vote here. Of these two boxes, the Khador or Skorne, what do you like? Which one do you think is a more powerful box?
Objectively speaking, like not just against each other.
Sure. Let's go with that.
You didn't pick one.
Objectively speaking, not just against each other.
I would say probably the Khador box.
Okay.
Because it feels to me like it has more options. Regardless of whether Khador is a stronger or weaker faction than Skorne as a whole, I don't care about that. I'm not going to get into it.
We could fight for hours about it.
I don't know. I feel like the Skorne list is more focused around the Mullet Karn assassination or the threat of it. And it has less ability to... like, the Gladiator is basically the only thing in that list that moves enemy models with any degree of regularity.
That's true.
Whereas the
Spriggan and the Demolisher.
Yeah, the Spriggan and Demolisher both have bulldoze.
Sorry to interrupt. Wouldn't the Demolisher make an effective defender against Karn? At 25 armor?
The problem is that you don't need to damage the Demolisher to get around him.
You
like,
just walk
you charge him from the side, and then you hit him once. Oh, I don't do any damage. Walk 2 more inches. Hit him again. Walk 2 more inches, and now Sorcery gets cut.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you do it properly, if you had the Spriggan and the Demolisher side by side, for example, and assuming that the Skorne player can't just slam one of them out of the way with the Gladiator. I mean, I guess the Gladiator would kind of be... No, the Gladiator just walks out of the way too. He follows it. Assuming he can't move one of them, you're in okay shape, because then Karn has to take the long way around instead of just charging you on the side, and then at that point you're something of a speed bump. And then you just put a couple Winter Guard, like you put a Winter Guard 2 inches away, and then he has to die, and he might be tough.
Yeah. So I mean, even if he just soaks one Karn hit.
I would say I would say an effective strategy would probably be like sticking the Demolisher right in the thick of your Winter Guard. And having him be like the center of the wall, and then have him surrounded by the rest. So
overall, we've got 1 vote for Khador. Of the 2 boxes, which do you think is probably stronger?
I'm a little biased because I'm a little. I mean, they're my main faction, but I really do objectively I believe that the Khador faction the Khador faction box is the stronger of the 2 boxes.
See, for me, I would actually sign with Skorne for 2 reasons. The first, which is I think that the threat of this assassination run is a huge factor. Like it forces your opponent to have to play around it, and you don't even need to engage in the actual assassination attempt that way. But you get to control your opponent's kind of movements based on what you could potentially do.
It makes you predictable.
In addition to that, I feel like the Skorne set, and maybe this is just because my playstyle tends to be a bit more aggressive. Is much more aggressive than the Khador set out of these 2 that I'm currently seeing. Like both the Spriggan and the Demolisher seem like very... Spriggan can do a crazy amount of damage, but they both seem like more defensive jacks.
Such thing.
Okay, but comparatively speaking. Whereas I think that Karn and the Gladiator both are more offensive jacks. Or beasts, I guess. I feel like the Skorne set is a more offensive set in general.
Yeah, offensive to my sensibilities because they smell.
Fair. Well,
I feel like the Kador box is more like a read and react style of play where by mid game you should have by then you should decide how you're gonna play out the rest of the game. While Skorne the Skorne list, and in this list in particular is gimmick. It's a gimmick list. It has one main course of victory. It's its main it's its main objective. It's its main it's its biggest weapon in trying to achieve victory. But just the threat of it being there is also
it's huge. Yeah.
Is huge. But at the same time, I feel like it makes the list a bit predictable.
I don't know about that because the thing is, I think that the incendiary, if you let's say you're doing an objective where you need to control the zone, right? If you're worried about the assassination attempt from Mullet Karn, you're going to keep things relatively close together, and the incendiary can just bombard things. From there.
To a certain degree, I disagree.
Okay.
Because so I don't want to go into straight 1-to-1 army because the Kador box in this case has 15 model infantry unit.
That's true. And that's a lot of dudes.
The other thing is the incendiary only have a 3-inch blast, which means you can spread your dudes out to about 2.5 inches apart, almost, and I guess not really 2.5.
You're gonna catch maybe 2, maybe 3.
Yeah, if you're lucky, and that's close enough that Mullet Karn can't go between them.
Okay.
Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you take the incendiary and even take a one guy if you're spread out that way.
Yeah, but you have a honeycomb. You don't do one line.
No. But I'm just saying, if you take out let's say the incendiary took out 3 guys in a line-ish.
Right.
Now Karn could probably get through that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, this is assuming that they don't
roll tough or they don't.
Well, yeah. I mean, it gets into a lot of theory hammer as well, right?
It seems like these two lists.
Theory machine? Would you put that? Theory machine? Okay.
It seems like these two lists are really do or die on whether their infantries can survive long enough.
Well, I think both of them are going to they're very well-rounded forces. I think that the Skorne list, because it has that assassination potential.
It's just a longer reach for it, really.
Yeah, but I think that the Skorne looks a little more one-dimensional. But I really think that with the swordsman and the incendiary, I think they have a lot of options.
Yeah. So the Skorne list, I don't think it's one-dimensional. I just think that its strength is more focused in kind of a threat.
Yeah. The way I saw it was that it seems one-dimensional, but because of that one so threatening ability, you can use that threat to play completely differently and surprise your opponent.
My only concern with the Skorne one is if you have somebody who's a relatively new person, once they learn that combo, they may try and only look for that combo. They will ignore other parts of their army, and that's going to lose them lots of games. So
you can't really ignore that. With Makeda, with this list, you actually have a very fast army. Yeah. Your Praetorians and your Paingivers run 14.
Yeah, that's
your Incendiary only run 12, but still.
But 12 for heavy infantry?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Fast. I mean, it's definitely a good idea to get in there, to get in the thick of things, and you will be taking the initiative with the Makeda list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I guess it does depend on which scenarios you get to.
Well, yeah, a little bit.
So. Like I said, I'm really interested in seeing how these play against each other, and we will find out at some point here. But I'm pretty excited for both of them. But,
yeah.
So that's about all we have on that one. That was the Skorne Army Box contents discussion. Whether or not we're actually end up being correct about all this stuff.
We won't be.
We'll find out.
No way.
When we get some experience playing with these armies.
Yeah, we learn how stupid we are.
Yeah, well, exactly. If you have other... Shut up. If you have other thoughts, comments, definitely post them. If you see things that we don't in these armies and you want to bring those to light and
educate us, please.
That'll be 400 comments of you guys are stupid.
That's fine. No, that's fine. Because I'd like to open up a dialogue. There's lots of people that play Kador. There's lots of people that play Skorne. There's lots of people that know these models and these lists very well. And if they can, I'd like to get some Skorne tips before I bludgeon you with them.
Clearly.
So if I can get a leg up and these guys can help me out, absolutely, I'd love that. But aside from that, you can reach us at WSUJGuiden, the Twitter, www.wsujguiden.com when the website's up. I'm not sure if the website will be up before or after this video posts, so we'll see what happens there. Of course, on YouTube here, and we do have a Google Plus and a Facebook thing, so if you search for some of those, you should be able to find us. If